A woman shot in her own driveway.
Tonight, a callous crime caught on camera. The hunt for a gunman in Markham. Good evening. The video is disturbing. An attack investigators believe was targeted.
Fortunately, the victim wasn't seriously injured. York Regional Police sharing the evidence in the hopes of catching the assailant. CTV's Scott Lightfoot joins us from the Kennedy and 14th Avenue area. Scott.
Well, Nathan, we're standing outside the home where this happened. I can tell you that about 5 minutes ago, a resident of the home actually came in on foot, opened the gate behind me, and was met by someone else. I asked if they wanted to speak. They did not. We do not know if it was the victim. We do know the victim is out of hospital. Police say this happened about 5:30 last night. They say it was a targeted incident. And at this point, they don't believe the shooter and the victim knew each other until what you're about to see. In the video provided by York Regional Police, the female victim is blurred. The shooter is not. He is wearing a reflective safety vest and yellow hard hat. He's also wearing a dark hoodie and pants and a medical mask. The pair can be seen walking along Lee Avenue in Markham, seemingly involved in conversation, before the woman heads back toward her home.
There was a conversation that was had, and as the woman was walking back into her residence, he pulls a firearm out.
The video shows the shooter appearing to struggle, seemingly unable to fire the gun at first, but you can see from the muzzle flashes that he does manage to get a couple of shots off, at least one of which struck the victim.
It was only minor injuries, and she is already out of the hospital.
Police say the shooter left the scene in a dark-colored Audi A4. They believe the suspect's outfit was a disguise, but may also have been used to lure the woman from her home.
In this particular circumstance, there is some road work that's happening out in front of our victim's house, and you can see pylons in the video as well. We believe that the suspect used this opportunity to take advantage of the fact that the victim would be unsuspecting of why he was there and actually went out to interact with him.
Police say they believe the shooting was targeted and that the victim was the intended target. However, investigators say there is no indication that the victim and suspect knew each other prior to the shooting. Now, the video you saw came from two cameras which are on this house, one of them right behind me, the other is at the front of the home. Police are looking for anyone who may have video of this incident. I can tell you, just looking around this neighborhood, there are a number of security cameras. It's also a very busy street, lots of people driving by. Police thinking someone may have been driving by and captured something on dash cam. Anyone with any information or who was in the area around 5:30 last night asked to call York Regional Police. Reporting live in Markham, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Scott. We turn to a terrible tragedy on a busy Pickering roadway.
A man and his young daughter struck by a vehicle and killed. Police say they were crossing the street just moments after being in a crash of their own. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live from the scene tonight at Brock and Taunton Roads. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, a very tragic story has unfolded here. A father and his toddler are dead after being involved in a series of collisions in this largely rural area in Pickering. In fact, if you take a look behind us here, you'll actually see some of the telltale signs of the accident. It is a lonely stretch of road, the signs of an accident barely noticeable unless you look closely. A guardrail damaged, pieces of a vehicle scattered in a ditch. This is where a Honda came to rest after it collided with another vehicle moments earlier.
Now, the occupants of that vehicle, a 40-year-old male and a 3-year-old female, exited the Honda and were walking along the roadway when they were struck by a BMW.
Police say the disturbing chain of events started here in the intersection of Taunton Road at Brock Road in Pickering. At around 10 to 8 p.m., a 40-year-old man and his toddler, who were in a Honda, were heading northbound on Brock Road. When they reached Taunton, they turned left, striking a southbound Nissan that was traveling through the intersection on a green light. The Honda continued to travel westbound for about 350 meters before it left the road and struck a guardrail.
The occupants of that vehicle were walking back to the initial collision site to speak with the second driver. However, we don't have that confirmed, and that's why it appears that that vehicle did not remain at the initial collision site.
Police say the Honda was badly damaged and the airbags had deployed, but they don't yet know what condition father and daughter were in when they left the vehicle and began walking back to the original crash site.
Where the pedestrians were struck, the occupants of the Honda that exited the vehicle were struck by the BMW. Unfortunately, the lighting along that roadway is not the best. And that can be a contributing factor that led to that collision.
When emergency responders arrived on scene, the 40-year-old had no vital signs. The 3-year-old girl was rushed to a Toronto trauma center, however, but would not survive her injuries. The driver of the Nissan, meanwhile, sustained minor wounds and was taken to a local hospital. The driver of the BMW was assessed but not taken to hospital. Police say they'll be looking into a number of things as they try to determine exactly what caused this crash, factors like speed, the lighting conditions, weather, and the results of toxicology reports. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. Also tonight, there's cold, and then there is this. The Toronto Police Marine Unit takes a polar plunge for an important lesson on ice safety. Expert insight in the wake of a pair of deadly incidents.
It was a frustrating and uncomfortable commute for countless TTC customers today, forced to wait in the bitter cold during a major shutdown this morning. There was no subway service between Wilson and Lawrence West stations from around 6:30 this morning to just before noon. Many riders packed onto shuttle buses to stay warm.
During the polar vortex, it's not the greatest right now, and I am late for work.
I'm going to York University, and especially on a cold day like this, it sucks.
I'm frustrated because they didn't mention it before we got to the station where we had to get off, and I'm sure they knew earlier if there were shuttle buses already running, and been waiting and waiting for shuttle buses.
And this, according to the TTC, was the source of the disruption. A broken power rail near Yorkdale Station sometime around 4 or 5 in the morning. Crews worked in the cold to get the repair done, with train service resuming around noon. The TTC apologized online, saying, "We know this was a frustrating experience made worse by the weather, but the safe operation of our system is always top priority."
The cold aggravating that situation and many others. It is indeed the coldest day of the year so far. Double digits below zero combined with the wind chill, making any time outdoors uncomfortable. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. How are they at this hour?
Well, it is still cold, Michelle. There's no doubt about that. But we are now past the coldest point of this cold snap, and conditions are slowly going to start to improve from here. Temperatures in the minus double digits, still continuing to feel like minus 20, including here in the city of Toronto, minus 12 degrees at Pearson Airport, feeling like minus 19. That temperature, though, is going to hold steady through the overnight hours tonight. It won't be as cold as it's been. We've got some snow on the way. It's going to begin as far as flurries are concerned tonight and continue through tomorrow, maybe a couple of centimeters here locally. We'll take you through the full forecast coming up. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, many people tried to stay indoors today. Toronto police embraced the frigid conditions for an important reason.
They were conducting ice rescue training and sharing a message about how dangerous the water can be this time of year. CTV's John Musselman is live at the Harbor Marina with the story. John.
Well, Nathan, here's the bottom line as far as Toronto police are concerned. When it comes to Lake Ontario and the inner harbors, including Cherry Beach, the no ice is safe ice. You need to stay off.
I've been out about less than 5 minutes. Oh, yeah. And I'm already frozen.
On one of the coldest days of the year, Constable Chris Gibson with the Toronto Police Marine Unit volunteered to enter a hole in the ice for this rescue demonstration. He says if a person falls in, time is critical for survival.
You're going to get that initial gasp. There's called a 1-10-1 rule. You have 1 minute to get your breathing under control because it's just going to be a shock to your system. You pretty much have 10 minutes of usable time to get yourself out, and then about an hour after that, you're probably going to go unconscious. Hypothermia.
The water temperature is between 2 and 3 degrees Celsius. Toronto police say the lake is deep and currents are always at play under the ice, which can affect the stability. The best advice is to stay off the ice. On Sunday night, a car plunged into Lake Ontario at Ashbridges Bay. A woman was trapped in the back seat. She was rescued, but later died of her injuries. And 2 weeks ago, a 70-year-old man died after he fell through the ice near the Toronto Islands.
There's always water flow underneath. That minute of panic, chances are when you go through it, you will go through fast, and no point of return at that time unless you have a life jacket on. You'll go right under and gone.
And police advise if you see a person or a pet fall through the ice, do not go out and try and help. It's too dangerous. Without proper protection, experts say you are putting your life at risk. Instead, call 911 right away. And some other advice, if you are walking your dog along the waterfront or somewhere like here at Cherry Beach, just keep your dogs off the ice and you won't run into that problem. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
That is good advice. Thank you, John. Emergency crews battled a blaze and the bitter cold at a commercial fire in Mississauga. It broke out at a building on Bren Road near Torbram and Derry. More than 50 personnel responded to the scene along with 12 trucks. One person was injured. The cause of the fire is under investigation.
Still ahead, shining the spotlight on a growing crisis in Canada. Youth struggling with their mental health amid a shortfall in support. A Canada-wide conversation and call to action on this Bell Let's Talk Day.
We turn now to the threat of U.S. tariffs against Canada, possibly taking effect in 10 days from now.
Ontario's premier was among those who met virtually today with the Prime Minister to talk about Donald Trump's looming ultimatum.
So we had a really productive meeting with all the premiers and the Prime Minister and a couple federal ministers as well, making sure we have a solid plan. We know these tariffs are coming on February 1st. We need to match those tariffs dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff, and make sure that it hurts the Americans as much as it hurts Canadians.
Doug Ford has been a strong proponent of a Team Canada approach and says the group that met today wants to ensure that Canada has a solid plan. The federal government insists it has contingencies for various scenarios and is ready to implement retaliatory tariffs. The first ministers have committed to weekly meetings now that Trump is officially back in the White House. And following the meeting, the Prime Minister posted this on X, saying, "Spoke with the premiers again today. I'm very grateful for their partnership and steadfast commitment to the country right now. Our first goal remains preventing harmful U.S. tariffs, but Team Canada is ready with a strong national response if we need one."
This week, we've been looking at industries and businesses that could be hurt by tariffs from the U.S.
In part 4 of our series, we examine how far-reaching the impact would be. CTV's Sean Leithung is live in studio with the details. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, in the final part of this series, I look at an American-owned business with 50% of their operation here in Canada, showing how a tariff on their product could contribute to inflation south of the border. Unloading refined zinc by the ton, this factory in Brampton is creating something used by millions in everyday life.
Yeah, so we're a manufacturer of high-quality French processed zinc oxide.
Mohit Sharma is the president and CEO of Zochem, a company that turns this refined metal into fine powder, used most everywhere.
It goes into tires, rubber, agriculture, which is animal feed and fertilizer. It's into pharmaceutical products such as your multivitamins, your sunscreen, your baby's diaper rash cream.
Zochem is the largest producer of zinc oxide in North America, sending more than $100 million worth to the U.S. each year.
We're vital to the United States of America because they don't have enough production of their own.
We first met Sharma in part 1 of this series, saying that 25% tariffs on his product
would be a solid punch in the face, for sure.
The company is American, headquartered in Tennessee, making Zochem a prime example of how intertwined the Canadian and U.S. economies really are. The zinc used here is mined way up in northwest Alaska. From there, the product is brought into Canada to be refined in Trail, BC. The refined zinc is sent via rail to Zochem in Brampton and made into zinc oxide, then shipped to customers primarily in the U.S.
We have every tire company that you can think of that you've seen. We work with a lot of the large pharmaceutical companies known globally, as well as some of the food additive companies.
The 25% tariff would be baked into many products on store shelves. Many of the exporters to the United States that we've spoken to for this series say the pain from tariffs will be mutual.
And so while we sit here in a fight that nobody wanted between partners, our adversary eats our lunch.
Arguing that this moment is an opportunity for Canada.
And go beyond this tariff issue and probably address continental security issue, because at the end, this is what is the issue.
And ensure unfair traders, like we have seen with certain jurisdictions overseas, remain out of the markets.
These super sacks all contain about a metric ton.
The question remains if the bad times will come.
There is a bit of a wait and see. 25% tariffs on all products going from Canada to the United States seems like a big lift for even our fellow Americans.
And I asked Mohit Sharma if their production may be moved entirely to the United States to avoid these tariffs. He said they don't have the capacity in America, but more importantly, they made a commitment to their employees here. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithung. Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. The federal government has signed deals with 4 GTA municipalities to address homelessness. These agreements with Toronto, Durham, Peel, and York are meant to support their encampment response plans. That includes creating new shelter spaces and increasing transitional housing options. Hamilton, Niagara, Waterloo, Ottawa, and Sudbury also signed deals. So too did Saskatoon and Regina. The agreements are worth a combined $91 million over 2 years. Deals have also been reached with all other provinces and territories, with details to be announced in the coming weeks.
Another federal cabinet minister has announced he will not be running in the next election. Harjit Sajjan says he entered politics to bring the concerns of his Vancouver riding to Parliament Hill, and he believes that has been accomplished. But the emergency preparedness minister thinks politics has become increasingly toxic and polarized in recent years. In a statement today, Sajjan thanked Trudeau for his leadership and unwavering commitment to Canada. He says he will remain a dedicated member of the Liberal Party. Meanwhile, there's a new contender for the leadership of the party.
I think it is incredibly important, for the party and our great country of Canada to have the voices of diversity. It is incredibly important to have someone who has actually run a business that has started from the grassroots and from the ground up, to where it is today. And it is important to have someone who's going to stand up and fight for Canadians.
Ruby Dalla announced her candidacy today on CTV Your Morning. The former Liberal MP says she's entering the race to represent all Canadians and will stand up for our country on the international stage. Dalla joins a list that includes Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney, and Karina Gould.
Whoever is the next prime minister will have to work with what is shaping up to be major changes by the Trump administration. The U.S. president has heads spinning with a blitz of executive orders.
The changes are coming fast and furious, sweeping changes to immigration and federal diversity programs, and staff have been told don't bother reporting to work. CTV's Joy Malbin reports.
I, Donald John Trump.
Donald Trump flexed his presidential powers, placing all federal employees in diversity, equity, and inclusion roles on paid leave immediately, scrapping the positions, the programs, and offices within 60 days. It's an extraordinary move, overturning long-standing equity policies within the federal government, first signed by President Lyndon Johnson during the civil rights era to address discrimination and underrepresentation of racial minorities.
That is crazy. I wasn't shocked, but I was shocked.
You're just not going to get the host of talent that you're aiming for.
It comes as no surprise. Trump has campaigned on dismantling diversity programs he claims divides Americans by race.
We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based.
After declaring a national emergency at the southern border, Trump is sending up to 1,500 active duty troops there to deal with illegal immigration as mass deportations in American cities are about to get underway.
We're concentrating on the worst first. And just yesterday, in the last 24 hours, ICE arrested over 308 serious criminals.
Birthright.
But the president, who vows to end birthright citizenship, faces an uphill legal battle. Under the Constitution, if you're born in America, you're automatically a citizen. More than a dozen states now suing the president.
I have one message for President Trump. I'll see you in court.
The president also defending his controversial pardons for all the January 6 rioters who attacked the Capitol, even suggesting he may host some of them at the White House. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
At his inauguration, Donald Trump proclaimed there are only 2 genders, a chilling moment for the LGBTQ2S community in the U.S. and in this country. CTV's national correspondent Judy Trin has been looking into the impact on Canadians.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
An executive order from the president signaling first steps in rolling back transgender rights and diversity policies. It's a storm that Gemma Hickey, a Newfoundlander who identifies as non-binary, will be flying straight into. Hickey's passport lists their sex as X, not male or female. It's unclear how U.S. officials will treat Hickey when they land in Seattle.
Was when my mother just dropped me off at the airport and started to cry and begged me not to go. It actually hit me, and then the apprehension and the anxiety kind of welled up.
Since Donald Trump's election, this Toronto law firm has been fielding an average of 50 calls a day from LGBTQ2S+ Americans. The calls about asylum often end in disappointment.
It's been very difficult to convince decision makers that a country like the U.S., which is, seemingly democratic, geographically large, and seemingly tolerant, is an unsafe place. So historically, these kinds of claims have not been successful.
The federal government is monitoring the situation, but unlikely to change its policies.
To suggest that the U.S. is not a safe space for trans people, for the LGBT community, I think is a bit of a bridge too far. Whether they would be then entitled to a successful asylum claim in Canada would be highly speculative.
But there are concerns that attitudes on gender among some Canadian leaders are aligning with the U.S.
But I'm aware of two, and as far as I'm concerned, we should have a government that just minds its own damn business and leaves people alone to make their own personal decisions. That's the kind of government I'm going to run.
Doesn't seem to, afford that recognition to us. Trans people simply want the freedom to be ourselves, even if our lives look different to others.
There is a push here to pressure the Canadian government to accept Americans fleeing the Trump administration. Meanwhile, LGBTQ2S+ advocates in the U.S. plan to fight Trump's policies in court. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
And Donald Trump threatened to add new tariffs against Russia if Moscow does not make a deal to end the war in Ukraine. The U.S. president says if there's not an agreement soon, there will be taxes, tariffs, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the U.S. He also warned the penalties could be applied to other participating countries, but he did not specify which countries. Trump modified comments yesterday that said he would likely impose sanctions against Russia if it refused to negotiate an end to the conflict.
In the Middle East, the ceasefire is holding and much-needed aid is now flowing into Gaza. In Israel, many hostage families are anxiously waiting for their loved ones to be released. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
Hamas has announced it will release 4 female Israeli hostages on Saturday, though the terror group has not yet provided their names. Under the terms of the ceasefire, they do need to give Israel the names at least 24 hours in advance, though they were late on that on Sunday when the first group of hostages was released. In exchange, Israel will release a number of Palestinians from Israeli jails as the terms of this ceasefire continue to play out. But tension here remains very high. An Israeli raid in the occupied West Bank yesterday left 9 people dead, while a terror attack here in Tel Aviv left 4 people injured. And there are big questions about whether this ceasefire can turn into a permanent and lasting truce, something U.S. President Donald Trump said in the Oval Office on Monday when he was asked if he was confident this could last. He said he's not, while adding, "This is not our war, this is their war." And so for now, on day 4 of this ceasefire, there is a truce. It remains to be holding in Gaza as aid continues to flow through. And here in Israel, people anxiously awaiting word of who the hostages will be that will be released by Hamas on Saturday. Heather Wright, CTV News, Tel Aviv.
In the UK, there was a major legal victory for the Duke of Sussex. News Group newspapers made an unprecedented apology for intruding in Prince Harry's life over decades and agreed to pay substantial damages to settle his privacy invasion lawsuit. The company apologized for phone hacking and misusing private information and for intruding in his private life and the private life of his mother, the late Princess Diana. Harry's lawyers said after endless resistance, denials, and paying off those in the know, the company is finally held to account.
Today marks the 15th year of Bell Let's Talk Day, and this year there was a focus on youth mental health.
It's all about breaking down the stigma and raising awareness. CTV's Beth McDonnell explains.
Youth helping youth in the face of a mental health crisis. Jack.org has chapters across the country and holds talks with the goal of bringing young people together and teaching them to support fellow youth having a hard time.
I was struggling with symptoms of anxiety and depression.
Liv Miller felt overwhelmed in high school, navigating relationships, keeping up with activities, and managing her class assignments. She got involved with Jack.org and now at 23 has a passion for speaking about and advocating for mental health.
It takes maintenance to take care of your mental health, and sometimes it takes multiple tries before you get it right in terms of who to go to for support, who you can really rely on.
Jack.org says the country is dealing with a youth mental health emergency. There are 1.25 million young people struggling with their mental health. That's about 1 in every 4 youth. Partnering with Mental Health Research Canada and Bell Let's Talk, a study found only 50% of youth are accessing the right support. It's leaving more than 500,000 youth without the care they need. The most troubling finding, suicide remains the leading health-related cause of death in youth in Canada. Jack.org board chair Zach Penley says there are ways to create better outcomes.
There's a lot of people that are showing early signs of distress that can be prevented from escalating. And with the right tools, we believe that we can avoid those situations where people are to the point in life where functioning becomes really difficult.
Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
And coming up, a lesson in mental health, from mindfulness to stigma, taking the conversation to kids in school on this Bell Let's Talk Day.
Coming up on Consumer Alert, if you're doing home renovations, you may need to rent a waste disposal bin, but if you do, make sure you know who is going to pay for it. One family says they got stuck with a bin on their driveway after their contractor failed to pay the bill. I'll have that story just ahead.
Hello again. It was minus 18 degrees this morning in the city of Toronto, but it was minus 30 at Algonquin Park. Not going to be nearly as painful waking up tomorrow morning, which is the good news. We do, however, have some snow in the forecast. A snow squall watch has just been issued for part of the GTA. We will show you where coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
If you're having home renovations done, you know there are many decisions to make, and one of them could be what to do with all the debris.
Many contractors recommend renting a waste disposal bin, but if you do, make sure it's clear who is paying for it. Here's Pat Foran with a Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. A family did a renovation and hired a contractor, and he said he would pay for a bin rental as part of the contract. But in the end, he didn't, and the bin company brought the bin back to their driveway until it was paid for. You see waste disposal bins all over the GTA. They're a handy way for contractors to get rid of all kinds of debris. Usually the bins are rented for a week or two, and then a truck picks them up and hauls them away.
What did you think when you saw the bin back in your driveway?
Initially, I thought, okay, they put it in the wrong spot.
Mara and Jeff Swartz of Thornhill recently had a bin in their driveway after they hired a contractor to renovate their ensuite bathroom.
Took out the old jacuzzi, put in a free-floating tub.
Overall, the renovation went fine. Their contractor agreed he would pay to have the bin removed, but after the job was done, they never heard from him again. When the bin company came to remove the bin, there was some confusion.
You have to pay me. And we went, no. The contractor has to pay you.
The company did take the bin away, but later brought it back filled with someone else's debris and left it on the Swartz's driveway.
One day I get a phone call from Mara. She goes, "Are we renovating again?" I went, "No." "Well, there's a bin in the driveway."
The bin company said the contractor failed to pay the $495 rental charge, so the bin would remain in the Swartz's driveway until it was paid.
We're sorry, our policy is if it's not been paid for, we bring the bin back, and it was loaded with junk, and it stays there until we get paid. Whether it's you, the contractor, we don't care.
The couple rented the bin from Binners, the company told CTV News. Unfortunately, when a contractor does not fulfill their payment obligations, we are left with limited options to recover outstanding balances. This can include withholding services, returning equipment, or in some cases, placing a lien on the property. When renting a disposal bin, ensure payment terms are clearly documented, request written confirmation who is responsible for the bin rental, ask for a copy of service agreements, and confirm final payment before project completion.
But if you didn't pay, I guess
it would still be there.
In the end, the Swartzes ended up paying the bin rental bill to have it removed from their property. And we did a story a few years ago on another bin dispute. In that case, the company said a homeowner put items in their bin they didn't agree to. The company removed the bin but dumped its entire contents on the person's driveway, leaving quite a mess behind. on your side, I'm pat for it.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, the good news is this is the last day of this cold stretch that we've been experiencing over the past few days.
And I think it's fair to say we Canadians, we're a hardy bunch. We know what to do with the cold. But our friends below the border, they're getting snow in areas where they don't typically get snow. And it's been quite funny to see the reactions.
It has been. You know, it's been a historic storm extending from Texas all the way to Florida and the Carolinas. And for some people, this is the most snow they've ever seen. In some cases, it's the first time they've ever seen snow. Take a listen to some of their reactions.
First snowball! I've never seen snow falling. I'm like a little kid right now. We can do this in NOLA!
I'm like, dang, it feels like Christmas. Like, I'm from Texas, so it don't snow like that down here.
She didn't like the snow at first, but now she loves it. She just licks it off the ground.
So this time yesterday, we showed you the snow that was falling in New Orleans, and I want to show you something rather interesting now. As of yesterday, and technically today, New Orleans has now had more snow in the month of January than we have had here in Toronto. They picked up 24 centimeters, and we've had 19, so how about that? But we do have a little more on the way. A disturbance is going to swing through starting tonight and continue into the day tomorrow. Light flurries, just a couple of additional centimeters in most areas, with a couple of exceptions. So from Pickering, including Ajax, Whitby, Oshawa, and then over toward Bowmanville, in through the Cobourg area and over toward Belleville, a snow squall watch is in place. So in these areas, maybe 10 to 20 centimeters of snow is going to be possible over the next day or so here. Otherwise, though, it's a clipper system, and with this, we generally see 2 to 5 centimeters of snow. That will be the case for the GTA, dusting to maybe 2 centimeters expected. Again, heavier amounts for the East GTA and certainly east of Oshawa. And this is also quite fast moving. So we get into some flurries tonight, continuing into the day tomorrow. There's midday. It's not a big juicy system. These will be on and off the flurries. But again, some light accumulation is expected. And then into Friday, we return to a little bit of sun. Let's talk about the temperature story. Tonight's overnight low is minus 12 degrees. You may have noticed that's our current temperature as well. So we're holding steady, and then temperatures will start to rise as the day goes on tomorrow, about minus 10 in the morning. We're not in the clear. It's still technically cold. It's going to feel like minus 17 early on, but it's not going to feel like minus 30 like it did this morning. By the afternoon, minus 5, and then tomorrow evening around minus 8. Overall, these temperatures are starting to moderate, and by the weekend, we are going to see a return to seasonal. What's seasonal, you ask? Well, it's about minus 2 degrees at this point in the month of January. Let's take you through the 7-day forecast. So there's our mix of sun and cloud for Friday. This is after we see the flurries continuing into tomorrow. Again, maybe a couple of centimeters of snow accumulating, and heavier amounts for the East GTA thanks to lake enhancement or some snow squalls. Let's talk about the weekend. Mostly cloudy skies. Seasonal highs or near seasonal, minus 3 degrees for your Saturday, minus 2 on Sunday, starting Sunday and then into the early part of next week. It looks like flurries will be on and off once again. And then the temperature starts to dip as we make our way toward the middle part of next week. But it looks like over the next 7, we're finally getting a break from the extreme cold. It's going to be a nice change. That's your look at the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, more than just a role. The lead actor in a new TV series takes his own experience with mental health and addiction and pours it into a very personal project. A story of struggle and recovery still ahead. Returning to our coverage of Bell Let's Talk Day.
This year, there is a focus on youth mental health, and there were important lessons being taught at some GTA schools today. CTV's Pauline Chan reports.
From yoga to dancing and even origami, students across the GTA were trying different ways to help their mental health.
So for the past 4 to 5 months, we've been planning a mental health day where each and every kid can have a day off, but also while learning something. Our main goal was to teach them how important mental health was and also how to make your mental health better.
School principal Grania Madison says mental well-being is the foundation of everything the students try to achieve at school and outside.
In my 5 years as administrator, I've really seen an uptick in the need for mental health and well-being.
and I've seen kids that struggle to come to school.
But there's also been education about mental health.
I feel like with Bell Let's Talk Day, over the past couple of years, they've really brought the message out to the community that this is important and to try to get rid of the stigma around it. And so we've got a lot of support from our families who do come to our schools.
Often, we tighten our forehead without realizing.
At Elia Middle School, students learned about mindfulness.
Mindful sessions where we can do body scanning and meditation so for us to listen to how our body, so that it would thank us.
For Bell Let's Talk Day this year, the kids created a special wall filled with messages of encouragement.
Where we write positive, similar to affirmations on that wall, and we call it the Wall of Hope, and it's Elia's Wall of Hope.
The students have also been activities like board games over the school year to disconnect from their phones and connect with each other.
And the hope for students of all ages that they can get the mental health services they need any day of the year. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
And this year, Bell is offering a national Text to Donate campaign where Canadians can donate by $5 by simply texting youth to 45678. The company will match that donation up to a total of $1 million. All proceeds will go to 6 youth mental health organizations. CTV News is a division of Bell Media.
Mental health is a major theme in a new Canadian TV series called Disrepair, and tackles issues of love, loss, and the complex dynamics of addiction and recovery. And for the lead actor, art imitates life. CTV's Andrea Case has his story.
Probably because I keep relapsing and coming back here. I think everyone else is just waiting for that phone call, you know?
What phone call?
That I'm dead.
Disrepair is a new TV series which tackles the themes of mental health and addiction.
I'm in recovery personally. I credit CAMH for saving my life. I'm still a client with CAMH. And obviously, first time I went to CAMH, I missed my daughter's 8th birthday, and that stays with you.
It is easy to see for lead actor Matthew Sauvé, this emotional subject matter was personal.
And I fought so hard. In 4 years, I went to rehab 4 times. It was not a linear, but I think it was fatherhood.
Sauvé has been an actor for 13 years and co-created the story. He plays Jake Thomas, a man who, after years of addiction and relapsing and recovering, is sober and is working on repairing his relationships with his family. Sauvé says addiction and mental health affects the afflicted and all who know and love them.
I just hope this story resonates with people that are secretly suffering in silence. You can reach out. Help is available. And you can, when you come out of rehab, there's going to be a lot of people that you've hurt, and you can make amends, and you can build. There is hope for that.
From his own medical detox at KMH to a career in front of the camera, his story has a happy ending. Sauvé's daughter is 21 now, and they have a beautiful relationship.
And what I like about this story is we start from the recovery point of the broken relationships, because it is a disease of deception. You have to lie for that disease to live in you. And I wanted people to know that you can come out of recovery and mend those relationships.
Disrepair debuts on Bell 5 TV 1 on January 29th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Amazon calls it quits in Quebec, opting to close all its warehouses, cutting hundreds of jobs. After the break, what the retail giant had to say about the decision and plans for purchases in that province going forward.
There's a conversation that was had, and as the woman was walking back into her residence, he pulls a firearm out.
Updating our top stories, a woman suffered minor injuries after being shot in her own driveway in York Region. It happened after the victim and the suspect, apparently in disguise, had a conversation. Police say they believe the shooting was targeted, but there's no indication the pair knew each other.
The lighting along that roadway is not the best, and that can be a contributing factor that led to that collision.
A father and his 3-year-old daughter are dead after being struck by a vehicle in Pickering. They were walking along a roadway after their vehicle had been involved in a crash nearby.
I've been out about less than 5 minutes. Oh, yeah. And I'm already frozen.
Toronto police conducted ice rescue training today. They also wanted to send a message about safety. They say the best advice is to stay off the ice and don't try to rescue anyone who may have fallen in, and to call 911 immediately.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca by downloading the CTV News app.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar fell by about 1/3 of a cent to trade at 69.5 cents. Oil is priced at $60.92 U.S. per barrel, down 22 cents. And the TSX Composite Index closed higher by just shy of 30 points at 25,311 points.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Amazon Canada is closing all 7 of its warehouses in Quebec. About 1,700 permanent employees and 250 temporary workers will be laid off. This decision comes amid strained labor relations with unionized employees at the online retailer's warehouse in Laval. The company claims the layoffs over the next 2 months aren't in response to the unionization drive. Amazon will use third-party companies to deliver packages, reverting to the business model once used in that province.
The Maple Leafs will try to win their 4th game in a row tonight.
Back to Markham again. Quick shot, save. Puck is loose. Knowles tucks it home.
The Atlantic Division Leafs are coming off a 5-3 win over Tampa. Tonight they host Columbus, who's lost 2 straight after a 6-game winning streak. The Blue Jackets sit a point out of an Eastern Conference wildcard spot.
Stay in the zone very long. You know, the zone time has been Toronto's advantage as Turnbull scores.
Meanwhile, the Scepters will try to climb out of the PWHL basement tonight when they visit the Boston Fleet. Toronto is last in a 6-team league with 11 points, just 1 behind Boston.
Just ahead, a timeout from the typical school day to talk mental health. Students out of the classroom and courtside to catch the Raptors 905 in action, teaming up to dunk the stigma. Finally tonight, taking Bell Let's Talk to the hardwood.
The Raptors 905 using basketball to send a mental health message to thousands of young people today. CTV's Rahim Ladani reports.
With this much energy on a school day, it must be a special occasion. Thousands of students from across the GTA, out of the classroom and in the stands, cheering on the Raptors 905 and the conversation surrounding mental health.
I talk with my family about my mental health, and when I talk with my family, I feel good and I feel like I can open up.
Sometimes people don't have good mental health, and I feel bad for them, and people have to be nicer to them.
Wearing special blue jerseys with the Bell Let's Talk logo on their shorts, the Raptors 905 have been prioritizing youth mental health for years. And teachers say this annual field trip provides an invaluable lesson.
They need to be part of the community. They need to experience these things for the appreciation. One of these students could aspire to be here one day, and that's the thing we're looking for. And the more chance they get to do this, the more communication they have.
Over the years of Bell Let's Talk Day, students and teachers tell me the stigma surrounding talking about mental health as a broad topic has gone down, but there remains a lot of work to be done when it comes to talking about personal mental health conditions, and that's what schools are trying to improve on.
Students come to school with a lot of accessories, a lot of a heavy heart, and so part of my role is to support students with that social emotional capacity, whether that be someone to talk to, a quiet space, an alternate learning environment.
Excessive screen time and social media continues to play a contributing role towards early onset mental health conditions.
I block out the comments and just tell myself that I'm good enough.
That strong mindset can go a long way. And while schools foster a nurturing environment, students understand they also have to take an active role in improving how they feel.
You just need to have a good schedule. You need to be eating good, having a good sleep routine, trying to sleep early, wake up at a decent time. It can be hard, but with practice, anything is possible.
A winning attitude that's beneficial on and off the court. Rahim Ladani, CTV News.
do that every year, and it's so effective, and it's just great to see. Great job.
They'll remember that forever. Did you hear all the screaming and the cheering? It's amazing. Let's talk about temperatures. Where are they heading? Hopefully up a little bit.
Yes, and we're cheering about that, are we not? We'll take one more look at the current conditions. It's still chilly out there, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be as extreme as it has been. Still feeling into the minus double digits at this hour. And tomorrow, though, we are going to see an improvement. By the afternoon, temperature expected to be around minus 5 degrees. Just watch again. We are looking at some light snow into tomorrow, and some flurries are in store for most days in our 7-day forecast. But look at the weekend temperatures, much closer to seasonal. Michelle and Nathan.
Ooh, beach weather. No, we're joking. Okay, that'll be nice, though. Thank you so much. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Andrea Case with our next local newscast at 11:30.
Meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.
Close to beach weather.